a young chick very skilled in kung fu, a ratel that does not let himself be intimidated, or a zebra with a fatal kick. Here are the 10 animal fights that we really thought they were lost in advance. What animal could be cuter and more adorable than a tiny chick, just hatched from its egg and with its fuzz still ruffled? It's not for nothing that we use the name of this little creature as an affectionate nickname for our beloved half. But alas, the poor chicks who, like Calimero, have just emerged from their egg are totally vulnerable and at the mercy of their numerous predators. On this sequence, it is in fact a big varan very sly, which succeeded in catching the smell of a good small plump chick with its forked tongue. The big reptile rushed then all open mouth and tried to snatch the young bird in order to make only one mouthful of it. But it is necessary to realize that the monitor had the eye bigger than the belly for this time, and our small frightened chick is going to prove to be much harder than it looks. The latter will indeed retaliate by giving furious pecks at the direction of the monitor's head, which only dodges them by miracle. Certainly not wanting to risk losing one or both eyes, the big reptile will admit defeat and leave this impoverished battlefield, with its tail between its legs and the shame of having been ridiculed by a baby chicken. Geese have the reputation of being very aggressive to the point of attacking anyone who encroaches on their territory. By watching this unusual and funny sequence, you will discover that this reputation is far from being usurped. The scene was filmed live from the gorilla enclosure of the Sedgwick County Zoo in Wichita, Kansas. As you can see on these images, a young wild goose decided to enter the enclosure of the giant primate, probably to rest its wings. The intrepid bird saw that the place was already inhabited, but it doesn't care about it and continues to take its ease as if nothing happened. Of course, the presence of this strange feathered intruder aroused the greatest curiosity of the big gorilla, who had previously never seen such a specimen. The huge silverback primate then tried to get a little closer in order to better study this curious creature. But it is exactly what it was not necessary to make, because the wild goose is not very favorable towards the promiscuity, quite the contrary. Like a furious fury, the bird of ill omen launched itself towards the poor gorilla, who had to turn around and run for his life. Now let's see a sequence that proves once again that it doesn't matter how big your opponent is if you have the guts to win and survive. These curious images show us the fierce fight of a rat fighting for its survival, facing a gluttonous cat that hopes to make its little 4 hours. But it was without counting on the rage of living of the rodent, which will very quickly be transformed into a real Shaolin monk to defend itself against its aggressor. Judging by his lightning attack, this rat has probably some family links with Splinter, the mutant rat of Ninja Turtles. Indeed, this magnificent jump made by the reckless rodent is worthy of the most spectacular figures of the flying kung fu, ninjutsu, and kung fu wushu combined. Thanks to his ancestral martial arts technique, this rat finally escaped from the big cat, who sees his dinner literally slipping through his fingers. The latter will have to be satisfied with his ugly vegan salmon croquettes, which his mistress feeds him every day in spite of him. The big bosses of the savannah are well known. They are called the Big Five, and they can be counted on the fingers of one hand. You have the rhinoceros, the elephant, the buffalo, the leopard, and of course, the undisputed lord of the savannah, the African lion. These animals are indeed the biggest, the most powerful, and the most dangerous that you can cross one day in safari. Almost all the other species bow down to them, and no one would dare to venture into their respective territories. Well, not all of them actually, because there is a very small mammal that rarely weighs more than 12 kilograms, and that these giants of the savannah fear more than anything else in the world. It is the ratel, a small carnivore of the Mustelidae family, which measures barely 75 centimeters long, but whose ferocity is almost legendary. The ratel does not hesitate to fight with lions or leopards when it comes to defend its prey or its hunting territory. On this sequence, you will see a couple of ratel facing a whole horde of young lions. And although the fight seems to be lost in advance, you will see by your own eyes that this small animal with the appearance of a teddy bear is in fact a real terror of nature. These young lions, still inexperienced, don't know that it's a very bad idea to attack a solitary ratel, and even less a couple. But it is certain that after this small misadventure, our feline friends will have learned their lesson, and will never turn around this small ball of nerve and claw again. We continue our video with this sequence for the least striking, and it is well the least that one can say you will see. This scene takes place in the African savannah, and it shows us the upper-handed attack of a lioness aiming at a poor zebra, which had absolutely no idea of the danger that awaited him. Lurking in the middle of the high grass, the lioness becomes almost invisible, waiting patiently for the zebra to approach to pounce on him and kill him. The last one, who did not know at which point his life was in danger, advanced with carelessness and nonchalance towards a certain death. But even as the lioness began her surprise attack, the zebra had a surprising reflex to flee, which saved him in extremis from the fangs of his predator. A quick chase was then immediately engaged because the hungry lioness certainly did not want to miss her prey. But it must be said that her relentlessness was literally going to cost her teeth, because as you can see, this young equid in the force of age is going to assail him a hyper blow of hoof directly in the jaw, sending him waltzing in the air on several meters of height. This overpowering blow quickly stunned the poor lioness, who will certainly not think of tasting the equine meat once she will emerge from her cerebral coma. Here is a scene that you won't forget in a hurry, even if you don't have a memory like an elephant. Look at this family of pachyderms trying to drink after a long journey in the African savanna in the middle of the dry season. This river is a real godsend for them, and it is with great speed that they hurry to deceive their trunks in order to quench their thirst as they should. But this river is the private property of a band of ferocious and hungry crocodiles who will stop at nothing to have a good snack with the elephant trunk. These powerful reptiles are certainly no match for an adult elephant, but hunger justifies the means, as they say, and here is a crocodile bolder than the others, throwing itself on the trunk of the pachyderm and munching shamelessly. The elephant, mad with rage and pain, will then show the crocodile that the idea of attacking him was far from being bright. The enormous pachyderm then literally lifted the crocodile in the air like a piece of straw before crushing it violently underwater with its tusks. No one knows if this poor reptile survived his harsh retaliation, but it is sure that it will make him never want an elephant trunk sandwich. Some birds are very aggressive when it comes to defending their territories, and believe me, these feathered creatures are not easy opponents. Ask this poor golden retriever what he thinks about it, because the unfortunate dog was given a nice little beating by one of those pesky birds. Indeed, the poor animal was swimming quietly in a charming little lake, under the benevolent gaze of his masters. The nice doggy was splashing around in the water, in total carefreeness, and in the most total gaiety. But it is necessary to say that the legitimate owner of this small water point did not really appreciate the fact that one comes to harm the quietude of the places. And this owner, here he is, a huge black swan with a highly irascible temperament, and who is not really used to make concessions. Like a Navy corvette, the furious bird swooped down on the poor golden retriever and literally pummeled him with powerful beaks. The poor dog was only able to escape with the help of his owners, who hurried to get him out of the water so he wouldn't drink the cup. We continue this incredible episode with a literally frosty sequence, since it takes us straight to Antarctica and its vast ice flows. The scene, filmed for a BBC documentary, plunges us into the middle of a bitter fight for survival in this hostile universe of ice and cold. A small group of young penguins, still fluffy, had been isolated from the rest of their clan and were chased by a giant petrel. The opportunistic bird saw the opportunity to make a small feast with these easy preys, but you will see that it will quickly disappoint. Indeed, the young penguins have lined up in a sort of defensive position, which protects their backs from the petrel's attacks, while allowing them to give it quick pecks. This defensive technique proves to be a winning one, as it keeps the ugly bird at a distance, at least until the reinforcements arrive. The following sequence may well make your hair stand on end, especially if you have a panic fear of snakes and other nasty crawling poisonous critters. Check out this dangerous bespectacled cobra that snuck into an inhabited house, probably in search of food. Filmed by a surveillance camera, these terrible images show us the moment of the meeting of the family cat with this nasty reptile with a fatal kiss. Having sensed the deadly danger that was stealthily approaching him, the feline quickly jumped on his legs and immediately put himself in a defensive position. With incredibly fast reflexes, the pet dodged the snake's repeated attacks while managing to land a few painful claw marks along the way. Seeing that he's not really a match for this feline Mike Tyson, the cobra finally resigns himself to giving up the fight and decides that it's high time to leave this damned house and his damned guard cat. And of course, as you're used to, we've saved the best for last, with this sequence that places us as spectators of a real clash of the titans. But it would be wise to warn you before, because if the sight of big, slimy, and crawling insects horrifies you, we advise you to stop watching this video, which may well give you horrible nightmares. What you see is a fight between a praying mantis and a black widow, one of the most dangerous spiders on the planet. Both insects are top predators in their respective ecosystems, and as you can see, these two fierce gladiators have no desire to come to blows. Indeed, the two voracious insects know that a fight between them would be of no use, as one does not eat the other in the wild. This anthology fight will therefore not take place, despite the clever people who made them get into the ring. And that's it for today. What do you think of these 10 animal fights that we would have thought lost in advance? What do you think of these 10 animal fights that we would have thought lost in advance? Which one of them impressed you the most? Tell us in the comments, and if you like this video, don't forget to put a like and subscribe and activate the notifications. See you soon for new discoveries out of the ordinary.